Welcome back to Starbound. Before we get into today's video, check below and make sure you're subscribed. Like the channel, that way you know when our 2 videos per day come out. I used to hate these meetings, but ever since humanity joined the ranks of the Republic, I've come to enjoy the discussions, mostly because humanity always seems to be at the center of some upset or shocking revelation. I know that it will not last, but if only I could watch these fools fumble over themselves for the rest of my days, then I just may be convinced that my position as Republic delegate for my father, Emperor Varg of the Varg Empire, was not so bad of a job. Maybe. Especially since this was alleged to be a military review. It began as most any other. I, Vargaxion, fourth son of Emperor Varg, am as usual the last to arrive at the Grand Council chambers. I take my seat upon the highest dais, alongside the first other being in the universe I could ever truly call friend. Delegate John Smith of the Human Federation of Planets. A far better title than Delegate Smith John of the Earth. I am glad his superiors took my advice to heart, though I still think there is a certain ring to empire that would serve yet better. Nevertheless, they are now a properly named member of the Republic, fitting to rule at my father's side. I speak to him, Delegate John Smith. Would you have a mug of Snargle Blast with me before the meeting commences? On the surface, it is a sign of camaraderie, a desire to share joy toxins with a fellow warrior, but in truth, it is a test, to make sure that his senses are as sharp as mine. By attempting to intoxicate him, I imply that the subject of today's council is important enough that I would try to gain an edge over him in its observation. But he would not be my friend if he were so foolish as to miss such an obvious signal. The other Republic weaklings here would accept, however lethal the drink is to them, out of fear of reprisal. But he is no weakling. Instead, he is confident, saying, "No, not right now, thanks. I need to be sharp for this so I can report to my CO. But after, absolutely. I always need a drink after these snooze fests." Another subtle message. A reply that while he is aware of the council's import, he is unaware of the subject, else he would not believe it to be a snooze fest. Oh, how fun it is to fight a war of words, one I would usually need not engage in with the thin-skinned mongrels of the Republic. Only my brothers, the heads of the subordinate clans, and my own father. Of course, I know the subject of today's council. It is, perhaps unfortunately, the last of the first contact-related meetings for humanity. At the first, humanity made itself known to the Republic, where I met Delegate John Smith, and the Varg Empire had found its first true ally in the form of a race of fellow warriors. The subject was short and simple, a brief overview of their home and its history and culture as well as themselves. I remember it like it was yesterday, the shock on the faces of the meek delegates of the council. A second race of Deathworlders, as they originally called me and my people, but unlike the uncultured Varg. Though I would contend that my people have a vibrant culture and history, most of the Republic would not consider warfare an art form. I would also call them uncultured for their lack of it. Until humanity, war as an art form was unheard of for any within the Republic but the Varg. Worse still, war in general is so rare that only a handful of species even had a word for it, and often it was just the name of a single conflict that happened at some point in their history. Conflicts so small, trivial, and pathetic that to call them a war is frankly insulting to me. Only the Juriyith Combine had what my people would call a true war, though it lasted only a short while, and their delegate also sits beside me on the highest dais, Delegate Jiraxi. But humanity, their history is just as riddled with conflict and death as my own people, and they had what none could dispute as culture. Art, games, fictions, and so much more. Religion, even. There was an entire meeting centered entirely around the myriad religions of Earth. And to the horror of the pacifistic holy papacy of Tornia, the wars and atrocities committed in their name. Now that was a fun council. But today is the last. The final council which reviews the Republic's newest member species, but to me, by far the most important. For it concerns itself with humanity's education, their path from infancy to adulthood, the way they teach their future generations, which guides all that they know. The purpose of these reviews, of course, is so that every member of the Republic can identify new ideas that only uncontacted primitives can come up with. Ideas that could aid in improving our own education. And, of course, to see what parts of a new species need to be further uplifted so that they do not become third world, as Delicate Smith would put it. Though in humanity's case, I doubt any of the Republic intend to adapt their ways of doing things. But my people, we have learned much. Already the Human Federation of Planets and the Varg Empire have exchanged abundant knowledge and improved one another. They have very novel strategies. But enough prelude. I have yet to answer my friend's implied question. But Delegate Smith, I think you'll want to remain awake for this one. I say, a slight grin etching into the scales of my cheek, knowing what is to come. I don't know if I'll ever truly understand Axion. To be fair, it's hard to read the face of a walking crocodragon. Don't look at me like that. I call it like I see it. Guy is built like Andre the Giant crossed with Killer Croc and a Komodo dragon, with ridges around his mouth and two great big horns like something straight out of a fantasy game. I asked once if his people could breathe fire as a joke. It was supposed to be a joke, but it turns out that they actually fucking can, though apparently it's vestigial. Some kind of sac in their throat that builds up excess gas from their digestive tract when they eat certain things. But it's dangerous if it gets shot or burst, so it's usually removed surgically at birth. Sort of like tonsils, except they explode if you do it wrong. I saw a meme about it once. Doctors do surgery on a hand grenade. Doesn't stop some of them from keeping the damn things, and they do sometimes grow back. Anyways, that night I decided against telling him about that cool trick you can do with alcohol and a torch that I saw during my vacation to Hawaii. Might get someone killed like that. But today he seemed off. I mean, during the council meetings he's always a bit off. We both hate these things. But today he seemed excited. He offered me a drink before the meeting, which is unusual, then told me that I shouldn't sleep through it. I may not be a politician, but I at least know that means something. God, I wish my CO would actually brief me on the meetings. But apparently they decided that my natural reaction to things is ideal for the image they want to keep, so here I am. I tried to look at Jiraxi for any clues as to what's got Axion metaphorically bouncing in his seat. But God, what a mental image that is. Big dragon-looking man bouncing up and down like a kid in a car seat. But I'm quickly faced with the equally unreadable face of a bird. She looks like those CGI-generated images of those prehistoric land birds with the giant beaks. Except she has very bright and colorful blue feathers with teal flecks in them instead of the dull gray ones scientists usually go with. Nevertheless, she glances over and winks at me. Thank God I taught her what that means. So there's definitely something up, but she wants to be coy about it? She's coy about everything, so that's not really indicative. Whatever. I guess I'll just have to play it by ear. Thank God I'm not presenting this time. Apparently, Axion requested that humanity's seat be beside his, and my COs decided that meant I would always be sitting here, even during human presentations. Saves me the headache. But it's not a human that steps up. In fact, it's oh God, what were they called? The rabbit-looking ones, I know, Whatever. They're super tall with those digitigrade feet. They got fur all over. This one's got white fur, but I've seen black and brown too. Buck teeth like a rabbit, big ol' ears that are sometimes floppy, sometimes not. Oh, that's right. They call themselves the Folonians. It's the Folonian delegate that steps onto the speaking platform. He, I think? He? I'm gonna go with he until I remember. He stands there. Expression, well, it's kind of tough to see from here, but he's definitely shaking a little. Eyes are solid black marble, so I can't really see where he's looking. The fur covers up all the little details, though if I were standing right in front of him, I could probably tell. No clothes, but the fur basically does that job. It's like he's got a 2-inch thick blanket over his entire body. Cultural thing, apparently, and also a medical one. If they wore clothes in most temperature-controlled environments, they'd die of heat stroke after a while. He speaks. Voice isn't deep but doesn't sound quite like a chick's, so I think I'm right. He's a he with a bit of an anxious stutter. Greetings, members of the Republic Council. I am Naval Advisor Honrin S. Song of Folonia, here to present my findings after my examination of the human education system. The holo projector flips on, showing drone footage of... Oh, God, is that a boot camp? Why the hell would they look at basic for... Oh, dear Jesus. I palm my face as he continues. Humanity's political liaisons gave me access to what they refer to as basic training, which naturally means this is one of their lowest forms of education. I asked if it was, to be certain, and they said that there was actually an education system before this, but that it was just a typical general education that covered all subjects. Which means that every one of the students you are about to see is a dilettante educated in several fields of science, mathematics, history, and language in addition to what they are taught at basic. I see exactly where this is going. God damn it, Jack, why didn't you stop this? I know Command wants to look good by putting forth their very best students for the Republic, but seriously, would a medical college not work? I scream internally as I watch the footage, going over everything that basic is. Bunch of rookies getting put through the ringer. Wake up at a godforsaken hour, quickly make the bed, and get everything cleaned and packed up in time for inspection. Pray to God you didn't fuck something up. Assuming nothing goes wrong, you do morning PT. Varies day to day. Sometimes it's the kind of normal exercises you do in high school. Sometimes it's an obstacle course crawling backwards on your back in mud on a rainy day through barbed wire. You know, basic stuff. He continues. As you can see, they are heavily disciplined. Even their sleep is heavily controlled. An entire class all made to sleep in the same chamber at the same time every day for several weeks. Natural cycles are ignored, forcing them to adapt to the artificial one. Their food is heavily regulated, but includes varied aspects of the typical human diet, which I am sure we are all already familiar with thanks to the Council on their biology. They even include a number of artificially sweetened delicacies, but this is apparently a trap meant to catch those they consider weak and punish them, ruthless to be sure. His stutter starts to calm down slightly as he gets more into the groove of his presentation. Must have spent a while practicing it in the mirror or something. Their physical training is grueling. They are made to exert their bodies to the point of mechanical failure, often multiple times in the same solar cycle. Due to the unique nature of their Death Worlder biology, however, the damage is rarely permanent. They repeat it every cycle, and vary the methods by which they exert themselves, until their bodies simply stop failing. I was told that they are also expected to continue such training, albeit to a lesser and somewhat self-disciplined degree, for the remainder of their lives simply so they can maintain the strengthening effects permanently. Imagine that, exerting yourself to exhaustion each and every day for your entire existence, all so you can be prepared for a conflict that may never even happen. There are some murmurs among the council. Is exercise really such a novel concept to them? I mean, they don't exactly seem like military types, but even civilians usually do something if they don't want to be fat. And none of these guys look particularly rotund except for the Rotundians. That's not actually their name. I just can't be bothered to pronounce their actual name because it's spelt the way a child suffering Lovecraftian nightmare visions would draw a horse. Anyways, the Rotundians are just like that, apparently, round by nature. I can't imagine what a fat one would look like. Well, I can, but it's not exactly flattering, and I'm just gonna stop making myself gag, okay? I listen in as he presses further. But that is far from all. They are not simply training their bodies or disciplining their behaviors. They also spend a great deal of time familiarizing themselves with their command structure, being taught the history of the military for their local human collective. I will never get used to that. I had to explain the concept of nations to one of these councilmen, and I may or may not have fumbled it a bit. The idea of a species as disunified as ours is so foreign to them that I thought it'd be easier to use a spacey analogy. Now they think we form great giant communes or whatever. I even had someone ask me to access the human hive mind once to answer a question. God, I'm an idiot sometimes. As well as tactics, strategy, and the construction of their weapons. Their weapons, especially, seem to be a point of importance. They will spend, frankly, ludicrous amounts of time training with their weapons, learning not just how to operate them, but how they are built, so that any one of them could deconstruct and reconstruct one under any circumstances, whether it is to clean or make repairs or any other purpose that might require it, even whilst blinded by a lack of light. Each of them could, given a handful of parts and some time, craft their species' weapons. For some, their knowledge is so extensive that they can craft new weapons from salvage parts, or modify existing ones to suit their needs or preferences. They also, of course, learn how to utilize a variety of tools for navigation of unfamiliar environments, often including live exercises in unfamiliar environments, despite the potential danger of predators they've yet to exterminate or their planet's lethal weather. Recently, they've begun moving many of these boot camps, as they call them, to newly colonized worlds to conduct training in environments not present on their homeworld. Ah, that explains the purple grass from the footage. I was wondering where the hell that boot camp was. I was a bit shocked that Command had allowed a delegate that isn't Jiraxi or Varg onto Earth itself. I see that they actually didn't. Axion leans over to me. Interesting, is it not? These weaklings treat your species' most basic of training as if it is some grandiose trial of might. This is what I have had to do with for most of my adult life. I imagine that Folonian would faint if they knew just what either of our peoples did for our secret forces. You've got that right, I responded. I have to resist the temptation to mention that this is only for those of us that go into the military. Command wants humanity to look big and strong next to the Varg, which means he also has to think that this is universal. I really don't see what's so special about it. Basics sucked when I was doing it, but looking back, it was better for me than nearly anything else. The habits they teach are good ones to have. I also met some of my best friends in Basic. Even after we split into different divisions or schools, I still kept in touch with them. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. He laughs heartily. As did I. This draws the eyes of many in the council chamber and temporarily interrupts the presentation, though he seems to make no mention of it, and it isn't long before the Folonian continues. To reiterate, this is all considered basic training. The entire program only lasts approximately 70 solar cycles and forms only the very beginning of their heavily warlike education. Afterwards, they split into a number of groups depending on their desired occupation, all of them military. I am told that there are schools for non-military professions, but that these are kept separate and are optional, as well as costly, and that for most professions outside of their military, the pre-basic education is sufficient. At least that makes sense. Teaching your people every single subject before they've even fully matured should certainly prepare them for nearly any profession imaginable. I cannot imagine how highly specialized their advanced education systems are. I try and fail to stifle a laugh. Advanced is not what I would use to describe college, and a high school diploma isn't exactly what I'd call qualifying for anything but basic service jobs. Costly is right, though. All it took to drive me to basic was one look at how much the cheapest college would cost me because I wasn't big on book learning. And I still did it after my service, and that degree was so worthless that I ended up going right back to the military just to make ends meet. That was right around when this whole first contact thing went down. Apparently in Europe it's a different story, but at the moment the good old US of A dominates the UN and most of our foreign policy when it comes to aliens, so American education is what they get to see. Thank God the CCP collapsed in on itself before the Urith Combine found us. Can't imagine what would have happened if that Cold War got broken by first contact. The Council's eyes are on me now, so I try to play it off. Sorry, I was just reminded of a joke, is all. Please continue. Axion's eyes swing to me. Oh, a joke? May I hear it? I was about to panic when Jiraxi dogpiles on me. Yes, I'd like to as well. In fact, why don't we take this opportunity to learn a little about human humor? God damn it, you two. Way to put me on the spot. I can feel the air in the room run cold as every set of eyes in the chamber turns to me, waiting for my stand-up routine. Fuck. Damn it. Well, it's a cultural thing, so don't blame me if you don't get it. What's the difference between a college and a tax bill? Well, one of them is needlessly complicated and designed to drain as much money as possible from people for absolutely nothing in return, and the other is a tax bill. Crickets. Fuck. Way to go. Political joke for political people, and it lands exactly as badly as it sounds. Shit. Hey, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's bad enough I'll have to resign from my position as a human delegate and finally get to retire. Axion bursts.
Excellent, Delegate Smith. I couldn't have said it better myself. Bravo.
Of course he actually gets it. Man spends his days in the space-age equivalent of a king's courtroom listening to nobles talk about their stunning ideas for exploiting the working class. It wasn't even that funny. The rest of the council very timidly follows suit in that sort of awkward and quiet way that people pretend to laugh to avoid angering a high school bully. Though it did seem to get a genuine chuckle out of Jiraxi. Somehow, this is worse than the silence. Now I feel like the little man standing before a mafia boss that took a keen interest in a mumbled comment. Next thing you know, I'm going to find myself in a room with my best friend and only he walks out. But thankfully, I know Axion well enough at this point to know that he genuinely found that hilarious. Christ. Anyways, as I was saying, the Felonian delegate continues, they did not give me access to their more advanced educational institutions due to all of them being present on their homeworld and there having not been sufficient time to catalog all of the potentially dangerous microbial strains. They did not wish to accidentally introduce lethal species to myself or my people's ship, or vice versa. So this is, unfortunately, where my presentation ends. Seriously? What a lame excuse. They know full well we have decontamination chambers for exactly that reason. Whatever. At this point, the entire galaxy fears us just as much as the Varg. We could give them any reason and they'd timidly accept it like a mook in some supervillain's pyramid scheme. The council meeting adjourns without much fanfare. The Felonian simply walks off the platform and everyone retires to the banquet hall for the exotic finger foods and to talk about the presentation, or more commonly other things. I see a few delegates approaching me, and I prepare my usual lines to redirect them to more well-informed liaisons when Axion actually skips his usual inhaling of the meat platter to wave them off. Guess he ate before the meeting.
Now, with the council adjourned, why don't we go enjoy some snargle blasts? Discuss the finer points of the presentation.
He bids me to follow him, his massive head twisting backwards as he turns. Good. I really could use a drink. Mind if I join you, Vargaxion, John Smith? Delegate Jiraxi appears between us, silent in her approach amidst the murmurs of the crowd, with her request. Axion huffs slightly.
I do not necessarily mind. You are one of the few who could contribute meaningfully to this particular subject.
Subject? Wait, so he actually wants to talk about the presentation? Holy shit. Jiraxi turns to me, waiting for my response, and I give it. Sure, yeah, can you drink, Snargleblast? She laughs in that somewhat pretentious way that a princess might. Oh, heavens no, it would kill me. But I do have a particularly effective synthesizer recipe for a nice warm tea I happen to enjoy. That will do nicely, I believe. Okay, now I am apparently in on some kind of secret meeting to talk about boot camp? I am so confused. Axion, John, and I retire to a private chamber. There I synthesize my favorite drink while the other two pour that foul liquid into relatively small glasses. Smaller, in John's case. For Axion, his small glass is nearly the size of my entire cup of tea. It is good that they allowed me in on their private conversation. If my suspicions are correct, they exchanged some kind of secret message both immediately before and during the council. That joke was subtle, but if I am right... Axion speaks after taking a swig of his shot and leans back in the chair, which complains loudly of the agony that is bearing his weight.
So, what did you think of the Felonians' ideas about you people's most basic of training? Accurate? Over-dramatic? Under-dramatic, even?
I must remind myself that as brutish as Axion seems on the surface, he is as cunning a politician as any, if not more so. He expertly navigated the bloody secession of his brothers, and managed to play all of them in such a way that he remained a neutral benefactor to whichever of them won. In this way, he has secured his life and future whilst also dodging the responsibility and danger of vying for and subsequently sitting on the Varg throne. Though there is no true proof or evidence, I believe he is also the mastermind behind the accident that happened to the most cruel and vicious of his brothers. There are some crimes, I believe, that even he cannot tolerate. This also would serve as a message to the others, that even if they sit upon the throne, they are not necessarily free to do as they please. A situation he enjoys by virtue of being the best in actual combat of all his siblings. None of them can beat him in an honor duel, and he never takes their life when he wins. He has the skills to be undefeated when challenged directly, and the savvy to be untouchable by underhanded methods. He is, by far, the most dangerous individual in the galaxy to have as an enemy. Though, perhaps I am wrong in this estimation. Perhaps the most dangerous is, in fact, the one who now sits across from him, John Smith. What terrifies me about him is not what I know, but rather what I don't. He is an utter enigma. To have so masterfully identified which species in the council was the most dangerous, and subsequently made of them an ally on his very first day in the Republic is no small feat. Since then, his every step has been unpredictable. He insists that he acts on the orders of his superiors, the mysterious command, but I know better. His are not the actions of a bumbling fool simply doing as he is told. Each of them is carefully calculated and planned. He does nothing without reason. This is how I know the two have been exchanging secret messages through their conversations, which seem, on the surface, to be casual banter or small talk. Each word is laced with subtle and hidden double meanings. It has been quite the challenge to interpret them. I am, for once, glad to have had secured my seat beside Axion, for in such close proximity I am privy to these messages. I make sure to listen intently, even as I face away brewing my tea. He replies, I don't know. It seemed kind of simple. I was left thinking, really? That's it? You know? A simple start, confirmation of his general stance which matches that of the Varg. He considers the others as lesser species that cannot appreciate war as an art form, as the Varg do. a way to ease into the conversation so that they both know they're on the same page. I wonder what their true subject is. Smith questions me, "What about you, Jiraxi? What did you think?" Questioning me so early? He must be quite suspicious of my intrusion into their usually private conversation. A natural reaction for which I am not unprepared. I thought it was interesting. It's always nice to see another's perspective, even if it might not match one's own. What this truly means is, I do not necessarily agree, but neither do I agree with their perspective. A very neutral statement with slight indications that I may yet be swayed. If they believe that I could be swayed to their side, or service even, they may see me as less of a threat. Axion barks now.
Interesting. It was downright boring. A blasé description of a basic thing, puffing it up as if it were the grandest of rituals. If they'd wanted to discuss true education, they should have fought to secure access to a more advanced facility.
Axion, as usual, being slightly more blunt, but also as usual hiding meaning behind his words. Indeed, he was likely bored by the presentation, but his indication of what they should have done is also an implied request towards John, asking him if the VAR can do so in their place, for Axion is himself more interested in that particular thing. Though they are allies, even John is surely not going to be so open in his sharing of military information. I agree, frankly. I'd only gone through a couple of the MOSs. I was actually a bit curious to see what it's like for one I hadn't gone through. Though I guess I could just do that. It's not like I'm a private anymore. He answers to my shock. He agrees? He even indicates that he has the authority to do so, being no longer a private, which, as I understand, is their lowest rank of soldier. This is big news. Varg and humanity actively sharing military secrets? Oh no. Is this the beginning of a war? Do they plan to join forces and somehow overpower the Republic fleet, as the Varg sought to do in their early years in the Republic? I want so badly to probe for information, but this has suddenly become a very dangerous situation. I have to catch myself before I overpour. Axion replies now.
Perhaps we could come along with you then. You could show us the sights, teach us about your culture personally.
We? Us? Is he including me? I see. He extends to me an offer to join them in their plan. All those years of subtly building relations with the Varg is paying off, I suppose. This is a chance to spare my people the carnage of a war? But do I take it? Do I betray the rest of the Republic? My people may be familiar with the concept of war, but a galaxy dominated by such people. A peaceful galaxy is better, surely. But if I refuse, it may tip them off that I might leak information. For now, at least, I must act as if I accept. Oh, that would be delightful! Perhaps we could tour more than just an academy? As much as I appreciate your people's fascination with combat, I am more so intrigued by the other aspects of your nature. The contrast is quite interesting, and I would be remiss to lack of it. I answer, I will go with them, I will join them, but I ask as to their other intentions as well. Is war truly their only goal, or is there some other ambition? What will they do once they have won? Will they preserve the culture of those conquered, or obliterate them? Make of them a lack? Axion scoffs.
I do not think we'll be lacking for anything from a visit to a most prestigious academy. Any good educational ground is sure to have ample opportunities for entertainment, unless you would recommend it, John.
Axion certainly believes they are better off being rid of the lesser cultures, but defers to John's discretion. I see. The Varg think so highly of humanity that they would be willing to entertain mercy, so long as their views take center stage. It is once again John's turn to speak. I could see that, but it would be a long trip either way. Most camps aren't going to put themselves next to a water park, otherwise the recruits will run off in secret to fuck around. Or well, do that way more often and badly, so we'd end up spending a lot of time in a shuttle. He is amenable to the idea, but fears that it would cause dissent and encourage thoughts of independence and potential rebellion. So humanity does seek peace. But then why start a war in the first place? We have peace. Are they not happy with their already high position? A long trip either way. What does that mean? A long war? Humanity's conflicts are already quite lasting compared to the relatively pacifistic galaxy. For a human to say this conflict will be long, is there something else? Something I am missing? What could possibly face a human Varg alliance for so long that even a human would find it an arduous trek? The final phrase, a lot of time in a shuttle. Shuttles are often cramped and compact, especially in the context of containing every species in the Republic. Does humanity predict a shortage of resources? Do they plan so far ahead as to worry about the entire galaxy running scarce of resources when strained by the weight of every species? Is that it? A war of extermination to thin the herds of the lesser species? No, this cannot be, but that is simply too cruel. Even if you kill off the other species, you would face the same problem within yourself before long. It must be something else. It must. Jiraxi, is everything all right? You've been staring at your cup. Haven't taken a sip of it yet. Delegate Smith asked worriedly of me. I slipped up. I should have been acting natural, but I was so caught up in my ponderings that I forgot to drink. I can only hope they do not take this as a sign of reluctance. Yes, I'm fine, thank you. I was just so engrossed by the conversation. I saved face, showing that I was simply enamored by the offer, playing the awestruck fool. Engrossed by vacation plans? Well, you did strike me as the sociable type. I am not particularly sociable myself. I never asked to be made delegate, he says. This is bad. He is suspicious of me, saying that I am sociable, but he is not, places me on the opposite side, in opposition. He also hints as to his true goal. He, and by he of course means humanity, did not ask to be a delegate, meaning that they felt forced to join the Republic? Of course they did. When a warlike people encounters aliens, their initial stance will be to assume that others are not like them. So naturally, they tried to avoid the danger first by feigning cooperation. But cooperation was never their goal from the beginning. I see. They have always sought domination, just like the Varg. They join hands with the Varg for now to overcome the Republic fleet. But it is in that victory that the true long conflict begins. With the Varg. Axion is yet amenable because the Varg seek the same end. It is a way to push things to their desired outcome one way or the other, and ultimately resolve the victor in the way they know best. War. By placing me in opposition, he indicates some reserved resentment for my people, likely for having been the ones who made first contact and pulled them into the Federation, which is itself a test. He asks what I intend to do to make up for this, to earn humanity's forgiveness and be spared. Humanity is amenable to mercy, to sparing us. But if they wish to thin out the herd, then they would not allow us to keep our holdings. We would be as pets to them, animals kept in a zoo for preservation purposes or to study. But is that our obliteration? I know too well that there's nothing that could stand in the way of a joint human Varg armada. My only choice is surrender. I am defeated. Yes, I am sorry for that. If there is anything I can do to help ease the transition, please let me know. I shall always stand with you. I say, though I keep my tone supportive so as to not show my dissatisfaction. This, at least, confirms that when the time comes, the Urith Combine will not only not impede, but actively support the human Varg war on the Republic. But he rejects me. Oh no, that's fine. You've already done so much. I couldn't ask for more, really. Did I do something wrong? Did he catch on to my dissatisfaction? Does he suspect intentions of betrayal? I've already done so much. Is the lingering resentment truly so strong that there's nothing that can sway it? Are my people already doomed? Axion speaks now.
Oh, don't be so humble, John. We're allies here, friends even. As you once told me, friends help friends in times of need, expecting nothing in return. I'm certain that during our vacation, as you put it, you'll help her just as much as she helps you. It's a new environment, after all. She'll need help to adjust.
He speaks the truth. Certainly the Combine has much to offer. There is no reason to turn down our aid. Please, please let this work. I did not think I would ever be hoping for a Varg's words to... Wait, Axion is asking John to spare me? But why? Would it not suit him better to rid humanity of a potential ally even before the long war begins? I thought he would sit idly by as I was denied, but he didn't. He mentions the vacation. A vacation is a side trip, an off journey separate from the main goal. That means their war on the Republic isn't the main goal, which means this can't be a war for domination. But it will be a long war. Is there a threat I don't know about? Have they discovered some external danger which must be fought? My people know of war, but these two are masters of it. If anyone could smell a conflict brewing, it would be them. What threat could be so massive that they would seek to crush the Republic and seek total control just to better position themselves for a larger conflict, so large that it engages a human Varg front for a long period? The galaxy is not yet fully explored, and humanity has been on the front lines in recent months in exploring their arm of it. But if they've discovered a threat, why keep it a secret? Why not employ the aid of the Republic instead? We may not be masters of war, but with such masters leading us, surely. Oh no, I see. Humanity isn't the only one who has encountered the threat. He isn't sociable. He suspects traitors, that others within the Republic have betrayed it and allied with this mysterious foe. So he and Axion have taken to discussing their plans for fighting it in secret, and they have invited me because they believe I may not have betrayed them? Is the entire rest of the Republic compromised, or is it just a precaution? How could I have been so unaware? This is far bigger than I ever believed. Their capacity to think so far ahead is staggering. I am in the presence of not masters of war, but gods. I speak up to add to my application for their inner circle. I agree. Surely I will need your help just as much. There will always be ample time to repay debts and make new friends. I, for one, am very excited to see the future of humanity. He offers a quizzical look, but I know it is feigned to keep the conversation sounding natural. This, too, is a precaution. They do not know if the enemy is listening in, even now, so we all must speak in these complicated social subtleties. Yeah, sure, friends it is then. Man, I love this snargle blast. How do you guys make it? He changes the subject, and the conversation moves on to more intricate discussions of specific plans. Man, that was one weird-ass conversation. To think they'd take plans for a vacation day to Earth so seriously. They must be really interested in human culture. Whatever. I'll just report to the higher-ups like I usually do and let them suss out that stuff. I've got some snargle blast to homebrew.